Bonjour, Véronique, Véro, or as some people know me online, French girl in Seattle. Except she's lived in Paris for more than a year now. And what I do all week is share my love of Paris and France in articles, in videos. And today I'm in downtown Paris for an appointment. We are 1 day away from the reopening of French cafes and restaurants. 1 day away. The sky has been this color for days. It's been an exceptional spring. I am standing right now on the left bank, and I know many of you probably recognize this beautiful tower, la Tour St Jacques, which used to be a large church. This tower was built in the 16th century, but in the 18th century, 2 centuries later, the whole church was taken down, destroyed. That's all that's left. And you can take tours of the tower. They're usually in French, and you need to be able to climb up about 300 stairs, or steps I should say. But the reason I always come here is mostly the garden, le square, one of many neighborhood gardens in Paris. And it's been closed until the weekend. Today is Monday. All of our little public gardens and squares, and the big ones as well, like the Luxembourg Gardens, reopened this weekend. And we're also thrilled to get them back. But I've always come here to find peace in the middle of a very busy neighborhood. Lots of traffic, lots of people. And of course the Tour St Jacques is the icing on the cake, isn't it? You get here you sit on a bench and you look at this. Now the siren you hear is interesting because the Rue de Rivoli Street, which is that big street that connects this neighborhood to the Place de la Concorde, past the Louvre and the Tuileries Gardens, it's actually been closed to traffic. The mayor of Paris has been pushing really hard for Parisians to use bicycles and has opened miles and miles and miles of bike lanes. And la Rue de Rivoli, which is almost a revolution here, is now officially closed to traffic. So we hope it's going to last a while. We'll see. For now, since I had an appointment in the area, I thought I'd take you on a little walk. I live in the Paris outskirts of Metro Line 1, so it's easy for me to hop on the metro and come to Paris. But I don't always do it. I enjoy the outskirts, the peace and quiet I find there. And I took my time when Paris reopened to come downtown. It's Monday, and Monday is typically a quiet day. There's a reason I started my walk here. This cafe, le Sarah Bernard, is one of my favorites in Paris, and it's been closed like all the others for a long time. And I'm just wondering if they will be able to reopen, because in Paris, the cafes and restaurants will be able to use their terraces again, but they don't really want them to have people inside. We are still in the orange zone, the only one in metropolitan France, meaning we're at risk of contamination still. So I'm not sure what the Sarah Bernard is going to do. As you can see, the terrace would be the sidewalk, and a lot of cafes will have an issue with this. We have buses stopping here, so that's not going to be a lot of fun. The theater itself, there's a big theater on top of it. It's still in construction, and construction stopped for a while, for more than 2 months in fact. So not sure how the Sarah Bernard is going to do, or if they're going to do well tomorrow and after that. Let's head to the Seine River. Then I'll look back and show you the square where we just were. You can see the Eiffel Tower over there in the distance. the Conciergerie, the Île de la Cité, the big island, and the traffic that resumed fairly quickly. And you don't want to try and cross the street here when you don't see the little green guy looking at you on the traffic lights. It would not be wise. And here we go. You can see here the bouquinistes, the used booksellers. They're on the right bank and on the left bank. Many are closed. It is Monday, and even in Paris, quite a few businesses remain closed on Mondays. In the province or Provence outside Paris, it's even more so. So let's see, if I just stay here, I want to show you, this is where we just walked by, the second theater that's here, Le Théâtre de la Ville. For a while, at the beginning of the 20th century, it was named after Sarah Bernard, the great actress, personality, courtesan that ruled the art world in France for several decades. But during the German occupation, the Nazi stripped the theater of its name because she was Jewish. And for years now it's been Le Théâtre de la Ville, but I know a lot of people would like it to be called Le Théâtre Sarah Bernard once again when it reopens. And here is La Place du Châtelet, also a major transportation hub underground, as you probably know. Used to be a jail, a fortress really, that Napoleon took down during the First Empire. And here's the second theater facing Le Théâtre de la Ville, which is the beautiful Théâtre du Châtelet. Both the theaters were opened during the Second Empire by Napoleon III and were quite magnificent inside. I am leaving the right bank to say a friendly bonjour to the Seine River. You can see the Berge de Seine, the Seine River banks. They told us Paris Plage, Paris Beach, is going to happen again this year in July. It won't be as crowded if the big tourist crowds don't return. Here is Notre Dame, and I will be heading there in a little while. You can see the large crane they brought months ago to try and remove the giant scaffolding that was melted down during the fire over a year ago, and it's working. I can see the crane working right now. And here is the Île de la Cité, the big island. The Conciergerie is in front of us, which is what's left of the former royal palace that sat here through the Middle Ages until the 14th century, when the kings of France moved to the right bank, to the Marais at first and to the Louvre. Hope it's not too windy. I have a sensitive microphone on this thing. It feels good to walk in downtown Paris. I should do this more often, especially before it gets crowded again. Beautiful summer day, though it's not summer quite yet. The light is about to turn green. Now you have to be super careful these days because there are so many bike lanes everywhere. They come from left and right, and now that I'm biking, you may have heard of that cute little bike I rented through the Ile-de-France region, electric bike. You really have to keep your eyes open when you cross the street. It's not just about cars anymore. You can see people. It's getting close to noon now on a Monday. Early June, the beginning of June. Let's take one last peek at the Théâtre de la Ville. Behind it, la Tour St Jacques, where we started the walk, la Place du Châtelet, and the other theater, le Théâtre du Châtelet. And down that way, all the way down on the right bank, is the Louvre. But right now, I am standing at the foot of the Conciergerie. A pretty significant place in Parisian history and French history in general. It was famously a jail during the French Revolution. Maybe I'll do this to give you a better view as I walk. Right now I am standing on Île de la Cité, the largest of the two islands in the middle of the Seine River. The Quai de l'Horloge is the name of this street. Trying to keep my phone as stable as possible for you. Those of you who know my videos know they are very artisanal. I do not use a stabilizer. And I like to say they are imperfect at times, like life itself. But they are real. If you'd like to follow the information I share every day on Paris and France, you can head to my Facebook community, French Girl in Seattle, or France with Véro. Instagram as well. I have a blog, FrenchGirlInSeattle.com, where when I have time I write great stories about my homeland and the people who made it what it is. You can find me as well on my YouTube channel, so don't hesitate to subscribe and click that little bell so you get the notifications when I share new videos like this one. And if you like the videos you see, some of them are short ones, snippets of my Parisian life. Others like this one are much longer. And there are guided walks where I take you with me on my walks. Tour guides will guide even if their tour members or clients are not in town. Instead of following the water, I am going to cut across the beautiful Place Dauphine, one of the royal squares in Paris, famous triangle shape. Which didn't always look as good as it does today. But there's no traffic, no cars can go through it now, so it's very peaceful and a favorite place to hang out for locals and visitors alike. Bonjour le pigeon. I am going to go stand on that spot where they play pétanque a lot. So I'm a little higher. Behind us is the Palace of Justice. That building, what's behind it, used to be part of the Royal Palace a long time ago. But here is, in all of its glory, la Place Dauphine. It was commissioned by a French king named Henry IV. And you may know him as the father of Louis XIII. He gave us also a beautiful square in Le Marais known as La Place des Vosges, a bridge, which we will see later. He was one of the first kings who realized the importance for Parisians to really enjoy their city. And he worked on several locations like this one in Paris, but he also works by the Seine River to make sure people could walk along the Seine River. Another king who did this before he tackled his big project in Versailles was Louis XIV. The importance for city people, city dwellers, to enjoy their environment, to not just live and work there, but also be able to enjoy it. And from what we see here, they sure do. I am standing under a beautiful row of chestnut trees, les marronniers. They provide shade. Sleepy this morning, isn't it? It will get busier when the restaurants reopen tomorrow. I see the chairs are already out for some of them. There are also art galleries here. And normally you would see people playing pétanque here. You know, that game similar to bocce, which is usually from southern France or Mediterranean cultures, but people play a lot in Paris actually, in several locations, like this one. It's that sand on the ground that gets your shoes all messed up. But for once, we're not going to complain about that, because we've missed being able to do exactly what I'm doing for more than 2 months during the France lockdown, the confinement, as we called it. We are never going to take for granted the privilege of walking around the city, a favorite square, a favorite garden. Take our time, take in the fresh air. Never again. There used to be a hotel here. I don't know if some of you remember this hotel. It was a very cheap, affordable hotel that was sold years ago, and I stayed here several times. And I remember my room typically had a view on the Place Dauphine. I think it was called Henry IV, actually, that hotel. I stayed here at least twice. I've always enjoyed this little restaurant on the right, ma salle à manger, my dining room. It specializes in food from the Basque country and southwestern France. And like many, he's been doing menus. See, they offer apéro, which means for early afternoon drinks, people can drink on the Place Dauphine probably. And everything else is à emporter, which you can take out. See, I'll try to cross this without risking my life. Maybe I'll start on this side. There's less traffic, but there's still traffic. Wind, wind, wind. And I am standing now on the Pont Neuf, the new bridge, which, as you know, probably is the oldest bridge in Paris. Another project commissioned by Henry IV in the very early 17th century. I like to think of it as the first civilized bridge in Paris, with its large sidewalks and those special spaces on the side where people could sell things or just rest a little safely from the street. Until then, all the bridges had houses and businesses on them. Many crumbled as a result, crumbled and fell in the Seine River, but this one, Henry IV did not want it to look like the old medieval bridges, and so it became Le Pont Neuf. And people, it was a very, very popular place for Parisian society. Everybody rubbed shoulders here. Here is La Samaritaine, an old department store that's been turned into a high-end complex that was about to reopen in April before life stopped around the world. There's a luxury hotel at the top, and their lucky guests will get to enjoy the once famous terrace that sits at the top with absolutely magnificent views of the Seine and all of Paris. A Péniche barge is coming up. You can see that there aren't that many people on the Berge de Seine over there on the right bank. Some people are cycling or running, but there aren't big crowds. I think crowds tend to come out at the end of the day. Many people might be at work right now. A lot of them still working from home as per the government's instructions. The Louvre is on the right-hand side. You can see it from here. Traffic on the Seine, the way it's been happening since times immemorial. The tour boats, of course, are grounded. They're not going anywhere right now. So let's head over and take a closer look at a really special place that's at the tip of the island. Here is Henry IV. We call him le Vert Galant because he was a womanizer. This statue has had a very interesting story, He was one of our French kings who were assassinated. He was murdered on the right bank. As a French native who went through the public school system in France, I remember the history books always referring to him as le bon roi Henri, the good King Henry, who was good to his people, generous to his people, made sure they had enough to eat. So there's some truth to that. It's not entirely true, but there's some truth to that. He was a pretty popular king, but not with everyone, because he was born a Protestant and had to convert to become the King of France. How are you, Henry? Sorry, Your Majesty. Over there is the left bank, but I'm going to try and take us to the square that sits right below King Henry. And it's named after him, le Square du Vert Galant. I think I can still go down there now that they reopened. Click clack. Ooh, as I expected, the square needs a little bit of TLC right now. So many of our gardens were left. You know, nobody took care of the gardens for a couple months, so everything is really overgrown. Le Vert Galant has looked better, but you can't beat its location. It's a bit like the Vert Galant turned into a jungle here. You see? I'll take you to the very tip. Now, one thing French people have rediscovered since restaurants and cafes closed for at least 2 months and longer was the art of the picnic. We've all taken out our picnic blankets, and enjoyed great little picnics wherever we could because the parks were closed. The only parks that remained open through the whole confinement and after were the two lungs of Paris. The large wooded areas known as the Bois de Boulogne on the west side of Paris and the Bois de Vincennes near where I live on the eastern side of Paris. These were the only two where you could really go and sit in the grass. Other than that, people had to be creative, used public, the city benches. And here we are at the tip of the island. There's a group of young people with pretty loud music. They're having fun. And people would typically, if you come here at night, especially in the summer, you'd see people sitting here enjoying the sights. We're looking at the left bank right now. And they do the same on this side. People catching up and enjoying the views of the right bank. But as you can see, not that many people here today. Yeah, the gardeners will be busy in the next few days planting flowers and taking care of Le Vert Galant, which looks a little bit sloppy right now. And talking about Le Vert Galant, there he is on his horse. We just walked past him. You see him on the statue up there? He's looking straight at the Place Dauphine, that beautiful square that he helped build a long, long time ago. It was named Dauphine from the word Dauphin, which was the heir of France, and the heir of France was the future Louis XIII, his son. So I am going to use the other stairs. You can go both sides, it doesn't matter. And we will stay on the Île de la Cité because when I'm here I like to pay a visit to an old friend. And I'll do that today. Gotta get used to stairs in Paris. Even if you use public transportation, especially if you do, there are stairs everywhere. It's not a super accessible city, unfortunately. So, what we will do is cross back so I can walk along the Seine River, but still on the island over there. If I felt brave, I could run across this, but I have a camera in my hand. Brave and lucky. You know what? I'm feeling brave and lucky. There's a bike racing towards me. Here we are, still on the Île de la Cité, and this time you get to admire the Seine River banks, les berges, but on the left bank that sits across from us. can take little peeks at Paris. I see the bouquiniste stalls, the used booksellers on the other side. You see the back of them from here. A lot of the buildings that, or the art galleries, for example, that you see on the Place Dauphine, where I was earlier, behind this wall here, actually cut through. So they have entrances on this side, and they have entrances on the Place Dauphine as well. They're very long and narrow. That's the case of many apartments here. Like this one, probably. Or not. We are still on the Île de la Cité. I am going to walk past the Palace of Justice that recently transferred to the 17th arrondissement, though some sections are still open. A long time ago, this was the royal palace, the center of royal power in Paris. This whole block to the left of us. Let's look here. I can't believe how clear the water is in the Seine. Ooh, there are divers over there. Do you see them? Parisian facades. There's some prized real estate here. Look at the size of that window up there. Imagine waking up there in the morning and looking through that big window as you sip your coffee or tea. Pas mal. Not bad. It's getting hot. Midday sun. Glad I'm wearing silent shoes today. A pair of my tour guide shoes. They have been with me for a long time. And they don't make any sounds. Another peek at the Seine. And I think many of you have probably guessed where I'm headed when I mentioned I'm going to go see an old friend. You gotta do what you gotta do. And here are the firemen of Paris. They are the divers we saw earlier. Hope what they're looking for is not too grim, if you get my drift. Another street to cross. Might want to wait for this one. We can enjoy the sights in the meantime. Okay, here we go. Merci. Always thank people who let you go. I know it makes them feel great, and then they'll do it again. Les quais de Seine. We just passed the famous Place Saint-Michel, and that's the start of the Latin Quarter, which sits behind those facades. And I see my old friend peeking through that tree. I should say our old friend. I heard over the weekend that the Parvis, P-A-R-V-I-S, the big courtyard outside Notre Dame had reopened. So we are going to check and make sure that's the case. Wind, wind, wind. And there she is. There she is. Bonjour Notre Dame. The little green guy, which tells me it's okay to cross. Quickly, quickly. And indeed, it's only part of it, about half. I mean, work continues, so they have opened this whole section. Though, as you can see, Charlemagne on his horse over there is still confined behind the fence. Sorry, Charlemagne. Well, somebody needs to watch after Notre Dame, after all. There he is, on his horse. So this tells me that the crypt, the archaeological crypt that's right outside Notre Dame here, will probably reopen if it hasn't already. The museums are scheduled to reopen this week. The small ones have reopened already. Yep, there it is. If you want to see what Paris might have looked like a long, long time ago during Gallo-Roman times, this is the place to come. They have excavated parts of the old Gallo-Roman city down there. We've been running about 40 minutes. I think now is as good a time as any to say au revoir or goodbye. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to see more of my walks. And if you'd like to have access to more stories, videos, live chats with this French girl, consider joining me on Patreon, patreon.com/FrenchGirlInSeattle. For a small amount each month, a small subscription. I share a lot more information with my subscribers and friends on Patreon. Consider doing that. And I will keep bringing Paris and French to you. As always, à bientôt!